In this video, we'll see how to write and graph inequalities. So first off, we want to get a definition for an inequality. It's a statement that two expressions are unequal. And we have some symbols for inequalities. The first one is the less than symbol. And then we have greater than. And then when you have the line underneath it, it is less than or equal to or greater than or equal to. So let's take a look at some inequalities. So what are the possible values for y that will make this inequality y is less than -3 true? So what could y be? Could y be 2? No, it can't, because 2 is not less than -3. I want values that are less than -3. So things like -10 or -55 or -3.01, still less than -3. And we can keep on going and going and going. There are infinite solutions to that inequality. So because we can't write the solutions, what we do is we graph those solutions. Okay, so what I would do here is y is less than -3. Well, let's just add -3 here on the number line. I say to myself, well, what numbers are less than -3? All the numbers here to the left of -3 are less than that. So we make a graph going to the left of -3. And then what we end up doing to mark our boundary is we put an open circle there on -3. So let's talk about that word, the boundary of an inequality. When I have a boundary of an inequality, I'm talking about the number here. That's telling us where our inequality is stopping in this case here. So if I use the less than or the greater than symbol, then I use an open circle. But if I use the greater than or equal to symbol or the less than or equal to symbol, I use the closed circle. The reason this is closed up, it's saying, well, the number could be -3. So let's look at some sample problems for how we can graph these inequalities. I want to graph A is greater than 5. So first step I want to do is I want to label my boundary. So I'm just going to write a 5 here. Now A is greater than 5. I want to ask myself, is this an open or a closed circle? And I think back, well, if it's greater than, it can't be 5. It could be anything up to 5, but it can't be 5, so I'm going to use an open circle. And where is this statement true? Which direction do I go? What numbers are greater than 5? That's the question you want to ask yourself. Is 4, which is over here, greater than 5? No. But 6, 8, 10, wherever, greater than 5. Everything over here. So I'm going to make my inequality go to the right. Then I have G is greater than or equal to -1. So again, I want to mark my boundary, -1. Open or closed circle. I've got the greater than or equal to sign because it's got that line underneath it, meaning it could be -1. Then I'm going to close my circle up. I'm going to fill it in. Now what's greater than -1? Is -10 all the way over here greater than -1? No. But numbers over here, like 0, 1, 5, and so forth, those are all greater than -1. So I'm going to move my arrow to the right again. I have -4 is less than or equal to t. So I've got -4 here. And I want to say to myself, well, -4 is going to be less than or equal to what numbers? What numbers is -4 less than or equal to? All the numbers, again, that are to the left. Open or closed circle because I've got the line underneath it, or equal to. It means it can be -4, so I'm going to close that circle up. And last but not least, W is less than 0. Marking my boundary, 0 there. Open or closed circle, it's going to be open. And now what numbers are less than 0? Everything to the left here is less than 0 because that's where all of our negative numbers are. All right, now I want to go backwards. I graphed inequalities in the previous slide. Now I want to write an inequality for this graph. So I'm just going to choose any variable I want. I'm going to choose m in this case. And I try to figure out where's the boundary here. Well, there's -2, there's -4, so this must be a -3. I see that I've got an open circle, so I know I'm going to use either the greater than or the less than sign. So I want to say to myself, well, what's the relationship between m, and m is represented by all these numbers over here on the blue line, and -3? Well, all these numbers are less than -3. And again, I don't put the line underneath because it's an open circle. Number 2, I'm going to choose a variable. Let's choose p. And so p is my variable, and I have my boundary here between 4 and 6. This should be 5 right here. So I want to see what the relationship is between p and 5. What about all these numbers here? That's what's graphed here. That's what's filled in. What's the relationship between all these numbers here and 5? All those numbers there are greater than 5. And then I want to take a look at number 3. And I'm just choosing a variable. The variable I choose is b. And my boundary here is 4. I see a filled in circle, so I know I'm going to have the or equal to piece. And again, what's the relationship between all these numbers and 4? All those numbers are greater than 4, so b is greater than or equal to 4. And finally, this last one here, I'm going to choose a variable. And again, I always like to put my variable first, but you can also do it backwards and put the number first, but I like to put my number first, or my variable first, excuse me. So I'm going to choose the variable q, and my boundary here is -2. Its relationship with all these numbers in -2, everything over here to the right is greater than -2. I see the filled in circle, so it's greater than or equal to. All right, here's a problem to try on your own, and we'll go through about 6 of these. All right, so this one, x is greater than or equal to 0. I see all of the boundaries here at 0, but I can also eliminate these open circle ones because it's greater than or equal to 0. Now, what's the relationship between all these numbers here and 0? All these numbers are less than 0, but x has to be greater than 0. It has to be a number like 3, let's say, because 3 is greater than 0. So that's over here with letter C. So letter C is correct. All right, and this one, k is less than -6. No line underneath, so I know I am not going to choose these. And also, look at this, -6 is my boundary. So this +6 one obviously wouldn't work either. All right, so I want to say to myself, well, what numbers are less than -6? I mean, just think of a number less than -6 like -10, right? Is this line include -10? Nope. But this one does. -10 is over here, so A is the correct answer. 6 is less than or equal to x. All right, well, I see that it's got the or equal to part on it, so I can eliminate A and B. 6 is less than or equal to x. So 6 is less than or equal to what numbers? What numbers is 6 less than? 6 is less than all of these numbers, 7, 8, 9, and so forth. So C is the right answer. All right, I want to know here, what is the inequality that's represented by this graph? All right, so I look here and I see my boundary is 1. I see it's an open circle, so I'm going to eliminate all of these here. And then I say to myself, okay, well, what's the relationship between 1 and all these numbers here? Okay, all these numbers here are less than 1, so B is the right answer. And this sample here, I see that 2 is my boundary, open circle. So again, I'm going to eliminate all these ones where I wouldn't have the open circle. And what's the relationship between 4 and 6 and 2? 4 is bigger than 2, so n greater than 2. And last, got a closed circle. So these definitely won't be the choices. -4 is my boundary. What's the relationship between these numbers and -4? All of these numbers are greater than -4. And that's how we write and graph an inequality.